Hello, everyone. My name is Martinos Aristidou. I'm an editor and a member of the International Relations Committee at American Cinema Editors. I'm excited to welcome three very special guests who are here with me today. First off, I have the great honor to welcome the former president of American Cinema Editors, longstanding collaborator of Alexander Payne, two-time Oscar nominee, and ACEDI Award winner, Kevin Tent.
Thank you, Martinez. Thank you very much.
Happy to have you. Next, I'd like to welcome a prolific writer, director, and producer of the Netflix hit Find Me Falling, Stelana Kliris.
Hi, really great to be here.
Stelana is also the president of the Cyprus Directors Guild, and she's a South African Cypriot currently residing in Cyprus. Next, we have Emilios Avraam, award-winning editor, writer, and director, also from Cyprus. Nice to have you all. It's also worth mentioning that Stelana, Emilios, and I share a similar background, being Greek Cypriots. And thank you all for joining me.
Really great to be
Yeah,
here.
pleasure. An honor to be here in this room.
Ditto.
Well, let's start off with Find Me Falling. It's the first ever Cypriot feature to stream worldwide on Netflix. And it has the rare distinction of being number one English-speaking feature for 2 weeks in 2024. So how did this collaboration come about between the three of you?
So, obviously, I knew Emilio. We are friends. We're in the same sort of film community here. He had edited a film where I was one of the producers called Pause a few years back. Right, I think that was and he'd done a beautiful job. It's a film that premiered in Carlo Vivari in 2018. So aside from knowing him as a person, I knew his work was great. And so he edited Find Me Falling, which was called The Islander back then. And just in summary, we completed the film. It was a completely independent film. It was, financed and completed, and we sold it to Netflix after the fact, which was a very, very rare. They very rarely acquire finished films. Like the head of our department had told us in her 7 years at Netflix that only ever acquired two finished films, and this was one of them. So it was really, really amazing to get into that. And as it was acquired, obviously we edit maybe more for like theatrical. So obviously to get it kind of stream already, it went into the hands of Kevin Tent, who did this, kind of tightened it and shaved off some time just to get it ready for the platform, and also did an amazing job. And we were very starstruck to hear that he would be editing the film. He had just gotten his second Oscar nomination for The Holdovers then, so it was a very surreal and wonderful experience. So I've been very spoiled with this film with both editors.
That's amazing. Coming from Hollywood, what were the differences working with someone from across the world, let alone Cyprus, a small island in the Mediterranean?
It was all pleasure. It was all really wonderful. Stelana was great and very open. And it wasn't that much. It was really condensing and tightening in spots.
Yeah.
And because Stelana put it really well. I think it was more, a very independent theatrical thing, and
Yeah.
the streaming world, everything has to be tight. And so it's just really a process of going through and tightening some things. And, I think that's really the extent of it. We didn't just tightened up scenes really. So, but it was really fun to work on the film. Immediately, you can, how you can just tell if it's got a good heart. It had such a good heart. And that's the hardest thing to make happen in a movie, I think. And this movie already had it, so it was a pleasure.
Nice. And Emilios, was there anything that ended up on the cutting room floor that you wish was still in the film, or what was your reaction to seeing the final cut?
Yeah, I mean, well, I was pleasantly surprised that it didn't really change much apart from the tightening. So I did notice a couple of takes, which I'm still not sure the reason why those takes were kind of changed. But other than that, I think the flow was excellent. I mean, as you said, you making it streamer ready. it's a whole new thing for me as well. So it was really interesting to see what Kevin came up with, and I think he did it brilliantly. Obviously,
Did
yeah.
we
So
did we move any scenes around or anything like that? It was all the same,
No,
right? It
no.
was
There's
no,
there's
no, no.
literally, I think, like there are two shots sort of in the hospital at the end that went, but otherwise nothing was
Oh
removed,
yeah,
nothing was moved around. It was really just tightening, maybe some, yeah, as Amelia said, maybe some takes went. But
yeah.
again, I just have to say how very generous Kevin was, because he still sat with me after the fact, like for a good long session, just to kind of go through any little things that I was like, could we put that line back in, or can we, and it was just collaborative, and it was, yeah, and we kept that tight version, but I got to sneak a few little things back that I was sentimentally attached to.
Right.
So yeah,
yeah. The darlings, yes.
the
Right.
darlings
Yeah.
that I couldn't kill.
Right. Yeah. It's such a sweet film and it's funny. It's really funny.
Yeah, it's an amazing film, and I was so happy to see it when it first came out, and it was such a huge success.
Yeah, that was exciting too, that it did
It
so
was
well.
very unexpected, but very, very,
Yeah,
You never know, it just struck a chord. People like a
yeah.
film with heart. That's it.
Exactly, it has a lot of heart.
People had, I think, we hadn't really seen Cyprus on the big screen or on a platform like this. So there was, on our side of the world and with the diaspora, there was such an excitement about it. So it was really embraced, and people were sharing it, and so there was just this lovely buzz about it. It was, yeah, it was a lovely experience. Yeah.
You definitely put us on the map, Stelana, because a lot of the time when I say I'm from Cyprus, people don't even know where Cyprus is, and they think
Yeah.
I'm from a town in Orange County, which is
There is a
yeah.
town. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I spelled Cyprus. So you did us some good. People now know.
Good.
So moving on, this is a question for Emilios. In Hollywood, there's often the expectation to keep up with camera as the film shoots, the editor edits, and usually they have to be close in terms of how far the editor gets. Is Cyprus similar in any way?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on the project. Because I've worked on projects that didn't require that I should edit while they were filming, and that's mostly independent films, very local films. But in this case and some other cases, um, I was asked to edit while they were shooting. So yeah, it depends on the project. I would say, and on the budget also.
And
Yeah, and of course, I this is where I should point out that in Cyprus we don't really work with assistant editors because there are not any. So we
Right.
usually do the whole thing,
Everything.
like
Yeah.
everything, like from sync to organizing the project to
Right.
the sound edit to everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
So
yeah.
you're
I think
looking at the
I remember
entire
that.
editorial team right in
Yeah,
front
because
of
it's
you.
such a small market. I mean, there's no space, budget-wise for one
Right.
more person to be.
Emilios,
Yeah,
don't you live in New
unfortunately.
York? Do you live in New York too? Or
No,
I
no,
can't
no,
remember. No, you
no,
live in Cyprus.
no, no. I
Okay.
live in Cyprus. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
for some reason I was thinking you were in New York too or something like that,
I,
but
I'd wish.
okay.
film is largely state supported in Cyprus. So I was wondering what the process of making a film with the state is like. Now, does the state play the role of the studio and give you notes, or are they sort of the overseer of the project? What's the exact involvement?
Largely, they're a fund, so they have some involvement in the beginning in the application process at script stage. They might give notes before giving final approval for a script that will go on to development and production. But once a script has been approved, as long as you don't veer too far away from that, obviously there are changes and projects evolve, but as long as your final cut or the final film is what you applied for, they in my experience anyway, they tend to stay out of the process because they're a fund. It's not the same as a studio executive. So yeah, the point is to get approved and pass the application process, and then you just have to deliver what you asked for. I mean, I think, hey, Emilio?
Yeah, yeah. That's how
Yeah.
it usually is. I mean, there have been cases, and on my
Yeah.
case, because I'm also a director, on my debut, which premiered in 2024, um, before like a month before we start shooting, because we have to submit the final script before they go ahead with the first installment for production. Am I right, Stelana?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like basically to green light you that you're fully financed,
Yeah,
and then yeah.
basically. So there were some, in my case, very how to say it. There were changes that were basically I was changing the ending,
Ah,
which it didn't change the core of the film, but it added like a layer of, I don't know, depth, I would say, to me. So we jumped on a call and we discussed it, and I explained my train of thought, why I did that, and they were very supportive.
And once
Yeah.
Netflix gets involved, does the state committee step back, or is there any sort of dialogue between Netflix and the state, or
no, I have to say they were generally very, very accommodating on this project. So, I mean, the financing was our Deputy Ministry of Culture, our Film Commission, which provides the cash rebate, and then Jupiter Peak Productions from the US, who did the private equity, just to know where the support came from. But right from the beginning, because they knew this was maybe the biggest local production, definitely at the time, and having Harry Connick Jr. On board, it was really unprecedented for Cyprus. So they were really accommodating and helpful just to get the production going. And hearing that Netflix had acquired it, I mean, no, they stepped back and let it happen, and very gratefully so. There was a little bit of trying to work out some things, with the credits and the opening titles, which usually that's kind of very flexible in our world. And obviously with, Netflix, it's very specific with the timings and, what the contractual obligations are. So more technical things like that. But yeah, again, it was such an unprecedented, unimaginable thing that happened that they were just really game and on board and supportive, I have to say.
so I wanted to ask in terms of hiring an editor, does the state committee have any say, just like the studio in Hollywood? And this is a question for you as well, Kevin. What's the approval like for an editor to be approved by a studio to work on a big picture?
Well, I'll just jump in. From our side, it's just a matter of when you apply for your funding, you need to show a track record. You have to submit, a CV, and they just have to see that you have capable, experienced people. And depending on the scale of the project, so maybe on a short film or a debut, you can have, maybe a newer editor. So it just goes again case by case. And then there are also some, depending on if it's a co-production with other countries, nationality sometimes counts for certain points, if you're working with other countries. So again, it's just more technical and just showing that the person has the experience needed, but they won't intervene otherwise. Yeah. I'm curious to see what Kevin has to say because we're not as familiar with the
Yeah.
studio system.
Yeah, so in Hollywood, it works like I think most directors have an editor that they want to work with, and they do have to get that person kind of approved either by through the producers or, eventually the studio. But if it's somebody they've worked with before, it's it's fairly uncommon that person would not get the job. But if they don't have a lot of credits, let's say they're brand new and it's a young director, they might want to pair them with an editor that has more experience. So they will push for that. But if they've worked together in the past and it's not like an action movie that's going to cost $250 million, they would probably let them have the editor of their choice, I would think. But every situation is different. But I think that's generally how it works. So, but when I was young, and in fact, when I was just beginning as an editor, and I had interviewed with him, and he had decided that he wanted me to cut his first film. I did have to go to the studio, and there was pushback because they wanted, and I had already been editing for a while, but I hadn't done any like I worked for like a low budget, you know, companies and stuff like that. So I hadn't done anything major, and it wasn't a big movie, but there was pushback about me getting the job. And but to his credit, and thank God, he stuck. He was like, no, I want this guy to do it. So, and he had also said that he didn't want a granddaddy in the cutting room telling him what to do. He wanted to grow with an editor. He's such a smart guy. So
Yeah.
he wanted to experience things with the editor and
Yeah,
learn how to do it and learn how to edit.
So interesting.
Yeah.
that's
So
great, and then that set you in an amazing trajectory, uh,
yeah.
to reach the Oscars, basically the top of the profession.
Yeah.
Um,
It took like 25 years, but yeah.
well,
Whatever it was. Yeah, it's been a long time. We've worked together. I mean, we're not doing this film together right now, but we're apparently going to do the next one. But yeah, that was, it's been like 30 years that we've known each other, which is hard to believe, but
Yeah.
time flies.
Well, it's a great body of work. Oh, can I jump in as a little point of trivia, just as a full circle moment? And I don't know if I mentioned this to you, Kevin, when we met, but The Descendants was one of my sort of go-to films when I was writing Find Me
Oh,
Falling, when I was preparing for it. I know now they're very different films, but just it had a lot of similar themes, the father-daughter, the
right.
island, the identity of that, and it's a film that I adore. So it was just again, another nice little
Yeah, I
moment
didn't know. I don't
there.
think you did mention that before.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great. That's
It
sweet.
was on all my lookbooks, like the
Oh,
mood
yeah.
boards. The Descendants was always there. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Mhm.
I wanted to ask a question for both of you guys, Kevin and Emilios. You're both directors and editors. So I was wondering, how does that inform your decision making when you're working for someone else, like Stelana? How do you push back the director in you and let the editor come forth to execute somebody else's vision? And is that hard or?
Well, first of all, I mean, obviously, an editor has to know the body of work of the director. So every director has their own style, whether that's pace or the way they shoot or the way they direct, or if it's a themed based film or if it's a character based film. So it all comes to what kind of story we're trying to say. Because as editors, we are storytellers, right? We're not just a technical department. So, in a sense, we do have we are trying in a way to kind of suggest ideas that might be different from what the director was thinking about, because that I think that's part of our job as well, to maybe to show a different way of of telling that story or portraying this character, which they hadn't thought. And if it's not what they want, well, at least we showed them something that, okay, this is not what you want. This is not what I want. So I think and it's sort of like a conversation with them, and we kind of find the best. I mean, there were some scenes that we've edited like, I don't know,
100 times.
100 times, but we had to make sure that this is where it should be, and we've covered every possible way they
Yeah.
should be edited. So
Emilio's a
yeah,
very patient man. I say that to him all the time, especially when it comes to me. He's
that's
very, very
that's one of
patient.
the of our of this should be in the job description. Patience. I mean,
Absolutely. So true.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
so true. And a lot of times
yeah, yeah,
directors have a vague notion of what they want, but they don't really, it's not really clear to them even, and
yeah,
because
yeah.
there's so many variables that happen within a scene, let's say that you're kind of helping them. You kind of think you know what they're going for, and you kind of shape things how you think that gets closer to what they're looking for to do and stuff like that. And it's fascinating. It's a fascinating job, and relationships with directors is fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you find it hard to switch modes from being a director yourself to being an editor and vice versa and working for somebody else, or is that something that happens automatically?
Well, I haven't really directed very much. I directed one movie really recently, like in the last 10 years. So, and it was something I always wanted to try and do. And, it's really hard to, as Stelana will tell you, and Emilios, it's hard to get a movie off the ground. So, but I finally got a chance to do it, and I enjoyed it very much. And I, hope to do it again someday. But I'm mostly an editor. But I will say that the experience of directing gave me even more empathy and sympathy for directors. And it made me, I think, work harder to be an editor after that because I was like, man, it's freaking brutal out there for these people.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Yeah.
how, I gotta help this person, especially when they first come into the cutting room. I mean, we're all editors, so we all know when the directors first walk into that room after they've been on the set for whatever, it's 4, 5,
Yeah.
6 weeks or 10 or whatever, they're just, they're just damaged little poor
Yeah.
little animals that need to be comforted and
Yeah.
and have their strength built up. So
Yeah, that's
Totally.
true. Yeah, yeah, and we're also, psychologists.
yeah, totally. Yeah.
Totally, right? Yeah.
Yeah. There's the first few weeks where they have to get all the horrible things that went on the set. They just keep repeating, like,
True.
and then you can finally get to work after the first couple weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Every shot is a memory.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, every shot is a memory, and then and then that, and then this actor didn't want to do that then, and
Yeah,
you hear
yeah,
you hear
yeah, yeah.
all the stories, which is also
Yeah.
Yeah, all the
really
good stuff. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yeah.
There were a lot.
Now, along those lines, Kevin, do you think the perception of editors has changed throughout your career since you started up to the point where we are now? And if so, what was that change like?
I do. I think they're, I mean, maybe I'm out of my mind, but I think they are appreciated more than they were. It's certainly when I started out, it feels that way. And I think that's I think ACE is one of the reasons for that within the Hollywood community at least. It's really that's one of our goals is just to elevate what editors do so that the rest of the public knows and also the industry itself knows. And I think there's been a big change in that perception. You know, maybe another editor wouldn't feel the same way, but I feel very appreciated when I'm working on a movie. Well, certainly by with Alexander, who's a very generous and wonderful director, but also the producers I've worked with over the last few years and the studios. I think that they understand what can happen in an editing room. They can see the changes that happen, and I think they appreciate that more than maybe when I first started out. But maybe that's just my perception, but.
So would you say that from being below the line, we're moving towards walking the line, maybe? I mean, not certainly not above the line, but maybe one step closer to that, or
I don't know about that, but maybe. I said they certainly think more appreciated and more respected, I think. But you could talk to, and maybe Emilios, you feel differently, or maybe you, Martinez, too, but maybe your situations would be different. And there's, maybe young editors get knocked around a little bit. I don't know. I just feel for me, like when I first started out, um, the world has changed and it feels like editors are more appreciated.
hmm I was listening to one of the podcasts that was done last year between an ACE editor and some foreign editors, and they mentioned that they get residuals, which is something that we don't in Hollywood. Do you think that will ever happen for editors, or like?
I think if it happened, it would happen on an individual basis. If you were some really high-end editor that, could get some sort of deal from the production, but I don't think it would become like a standard practice thing in Hollywood. I don't even think the union has ever tried to do that either. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think so.
And Stelana, moving back to you being the president of the DGA and of Cyprus, that is,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Kevin, you being the former president of ACE, both of you were in charge of institutions. So how do you see the dialogue between ACE as an institution and the Cyprus DGA as a smaller institution of a foreign country? What kind of relationship can develop between the two?
Oh, that's an interesting
Yeah,
question.
that is an interesting question.
Yeah. I mean, I'm quite new to this role. I got elected in November of last year, but certainly would be open. I mean, Martinez and I discussed as well. Would be open to. I mean, any kind of collaboration or exchange is always beneficial for both sides. I
Yeah,
think figuring out how everybody works. Um, but yeah, that would require some thought because it is we are slightly worlds apart, and yet we do share this common passion and industry. So I'm sure we'll be able to find some kind of common ground too. And we do a lot of master classes as well for our members here in Cyprus. And we actually had Mavropsaridis, the Yorgos Lanthimos's editor, come in last year, I think, and gave a master class. So yeah, there can always be ideas for collaboration.
that's a great
Kevin?
one right there. That's a great one.
Yeah,
I mean, what
yeah,
you're doing, Martinez, right now is really something that's
yeah,
bringing worlds together. Just the International
Yeah.
Relations Committee is a big thing.
yeah,
And that's something that, we really has been nurtured over the last couple of years and has grown, thankfully. But that was the idea of that, is to be more engaged with the
yeah,
world and world editors.
yeah.
Well, I'm
And
very
this is
happy.
so lovely. Sorry to interrupt, just to say, I mean, we can feel a little isolated sometimes in, this little island nation in the middle of the Mediterranean. And it's really inspiring for us and it's exciting. We'll definitely tell, our members and the film community, like, wow, we did a podcast, with Ace in the States, with Kevin Tent, and like the fact that, we are not as isolated or remote as we think, and there's a connection there. So I think this is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Emilios, is there like an organization like ACE in Cyprus? Because it's really small, right? Like,
No. There's one
Yeah.
in Greece.
uh-huh.
There's one in Greece which well, I mean, I'm not a member of, but it just started happening. I think it's just like a couple of years old.
Yeah,
It's the Greek film editors, and they're doing a good job so far. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with Cyprus. Maybe I don't know. We'll see.
right, right. And I wonder if they're joining because there's an international group now that ACE is a part of too, called Tempo, which is
Yes,
and I bet you the Greeks are probably in on that, I'm guessing. But
yeah. They
how
are.
many editors, how many editors are in Cyprus? Like, they're all here today?
I think you can really
No.
count them on one hand in terms of feature editors. Am I wrong?
Yeah, in terms of feature editors, yeah, I mean, one
Right.
hand
Right. And then do you do
at
commercials and
best.
stuff like that too? And
I used to actually. That's how I started. I did like close to 15 years of editing for commercials,
ah,
and then I kind of, or at the same time, I kind of was editing short films, and eventually I started doing features as well,
right,
which is great, and I love editing. So
right. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but if you think about, you know, me saying that there's only like a handful of editors in Cyprus, that will mean that we get all the work, but we
It's
kind of don't, because in Cyprus there's and in Europe in general there's this co-production thing with
right,
other countries. So usually, maybe if we get co-production with Greece, they might bring a Greek editor on board, or with some other country, they might bring their own editor. So it's not really,
right,
yeah, like a one man, you know.
And
Yeah.
Stelana, with the success of your film, do you see the industry in Cyprus growing? And has there been more production since your film got bought by Netflix, or how
Um,
did that affect things?
Yeah, I mean, I hope, I don't know how direct a result, but I think it did make a difference because in the following year, there definitely was a boom. And I know because we shot my following film in, I think, yeah, a year later, and there were four other productions in the same month, which was
That's
unheard
wild.
of. We used to have 2 to 3 features a year shot in Cyprus, and there's been an increase, obviously, since the financial incentives came into play, and we have this 45% cash rebate on the island, which is really generous. So that's helped a lot. But I think having something like Find Me Falling on Netflix was a real proof of concept that, yeah, the quality's there. We can produce world-class films, and yeah, there was definitely a boom, and now it's just kind of goes up and down, I guess, depending on, I mean, I think last year was a little quieter. We'll see how this year goes. But for sure, I think it made a difference. And yeah, and I hope also for like all the team that was on it, cast and crew, that, there was now this additional credit as well. So that's the hope that it had positive impact for everybody.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I'm
but
sure it
definitely.
did. I mean, and
Yeah.
also the film looks so your film looks so beautiful, and just the locations were great and everything like that. So I think that
Thank you.
to me that would be an incentive to bring films over.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, the tourism department was thrilled, so they
Right.
did their
that was
job
going to
for
be
them. But yeah.
that was going to be my next question. Was there an influx of extra tourists after watching the film? Do you know?
I mean, there was never anything official that came out, but I can say the little beach where his character skinny dips,
Yeah.
somebody pointed out to me, I don't know if it's still like that, but on Google Maps, the name has been changed to Find Me Falling. So
Oh,
somebody
that's
went in and changed
funny.
it.
What?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Somebody
Oh,
sent me a
wow.
screenshot. There was some location scouting and they were looking for the beach. But yeah, no, it was a very big deal for us and the island, and and we're really, obviously, anything positive that comes out of it is amazing. So yeah, yeah, the like I said, the tourism department was thrilled with,
Yeah.
with our
And what
film.
about where the house was? That's protected, right? Wasn't that a park or something
Yeah,
like
we
that?
had to move the house was it was a sort of a prefab house that we could only be there for a very limited amount of time. So we brought it and then we took it away, and it's still
Oh,
actually in storage. We've been trying to sell the house
I
off.
love that little house.
Me
Yeah.
I
too. If
would
I had
buy
a
that
piece
little
of land, I
house.
would buy it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's still
It's in
available. So
storage. I didn't
yeah,
know
yeah.
that. So it was more a set then than it was, or
It
did,
was kind of a set. Yeah, we weren't allowed to because it's a protected area. We couldn't spend a
yeah,
lot of time there building, and
right.
so we built it in a warehouse, and
And
then
brought it on a
brought it
truck.
over, yeah, for 2 weeks for the shoot, and then took it away,
That's
and it was as
amazing.
if we were never there.
Right.
So yeah, yeah, yeah. It was an interesting conversation with our American producers. Like, we have to leave before the turtles come out to lay their eggs on the 15th of May.
Oh,
So,
wow. Oh,
yeah,
funny.
yeah, there were many challenges on the set.
Right, 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 right.
What kind of budgets are you working with in Cyprus?
So, well, I mean, it's where ours was 3 million euros for this. They're definitely lower. I mean, I think our low budget films, Hey Media, they're about 1 million euros. They can be lower than that, but
Yeah,
they're,
best. At
yeah, yeah,
best.
yeah, at
Yeah.
best. And then I think yeah, usually a good budget is 1.5 or something in Cyprus. It really goes over that. So
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, it was a very big deal for us.
Mhm.
But and usually it's even under 1 million that we work with. They're super low budget. But the production value, I think, comes across. Again, our rates are a lot lower here, and people really multitask. Our teams are much smaller, but I mean, the results, you can see the results on screen. I mean, we didn't
Yeah.
have a massive, crew on this. It was a regular Cyprus crew, and
Mhm.
yeah.
Production is becoming more global nowadays, with Netflix buying films such as yours and then becoming global hits, and at the same time, the Hollywood industry being in crisis. So it just kind of opens up the opportunity for more foreign films and smaller budgeted films to become known. At the same time, Kevin, we are very much in a crisis in
Yeah.
Hollywood. So what are your thoughts on that?
Uh,
Where are we going from here?
well, all the producers and or let's say the studios they all chase tax breaks.
Hmm.
There's like for instance, Netflix now is shooting a bunch of their films in New Jersey because there's such a big, huge incentive, and all the studios are doing that. So they all there's unfortunately, well, there's a push in California to get bigger incentives here, which I think is happening, and there's a push, and there's a new bill that's going to go in front of the California Assembly to give a post-tax break to productions. And that will be huge for all our friends in post-production. Let's say, hopefully it'll go through, which I think it will. Or they're going to take part of the money that's already allocated and give it to post. There's something like that going on. So yeah, I mean, I think that California has to be competitive on the tax breaks for starters. And you know what? But the industry is just contracting. There's just no doubt about it. There's just so many streamers and there's so much content out there that it's not possible to see it all. So I think that that's just going to be a natural, I think it's just going to contract, unfortunately more. Uh, but hopefully we'll get to a point where it's at a stable place. But
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's not, it's tough. It's tough.
Is it the same in Cyprus, Stelana, in terms of production, or are you continuing
Hmm.
as always?
I mean, again, we're not a self-sustainable industry yet, as with most European productions, we're very dependent on state funding. And with us, our state fund for features usually opens every 2 years. So yeah, so it keeps, and it's not a big fund. Like it's something that we're lobbying, obviously, as the Directors Guild, to increase that amount. I mean, they get something like 2.6 million a year for all the features, shorts, and so on that are shot, and obviously it's distributed across the whole production cycle of each film. But you kind of have to get in line and to get your various installments to get your production done. So there's a steady flow, but it's kind of remained at a certain level in Cyprus. What has increased is bringing maybe foreign productions with the incentive. So that's good because it keeps our crews working and so on. But we're still experiencing growing pains. They definitely need to increase funding for local productions to kind of keep our crews working. Otherwise, they start leaving the country or they do other jobs because it's not a sustainable, way to earn a living. So yeah, definitely need more money for local productions because there's a very generous budget for the incentives, but not for Cypriot films, and that doesn't make sense because you need the one for the other one to work. If there are no crews, we cannot bring foreign productions here either.
Right.
So yeah, so it's I'm optimistic. I feel like we're getting there. Having the incentives is a big deal. We're always pushing for extra funding for locals. So, but yeah, we're kind of I can sort of yeah like between plateauing and slowly having these little growth spurts in between. So we're in that phase at the moment in Cyprus. Yeah.
Would you like to continue making films in Cyprus, or would you like to expand in Europe or maybe the US? What are your plans?
Yeah. No, I have to be optimistic. So this is my base, and I want things to grow and keep going well in Cyprus. And I love working here because it really is, as cliched as it sounds, it's like working with family. But because we only open every 2 years and so on, it's not sustainable unless you're doing something else or you have a day job. And because I would like to just focus on the writing and the directing and so on. Ideally, yes, it would be a combination of, doing my productions in Cyprus and ideally abroad. I actually have two projects with my producers, with Steve Shapiro and Keith Arnold from Find Me Falling for rom-coms in the US, which are they're still in development at the moment, still in casting, and that would be an amazing opportunity to get that kind of experience. So I'm hopeful that those will go forward, and that the dream is to have that kind of career where I
Career,
can,
go
yeah,
back and
yeah, yeah,
forth.
because then, yeah, I want to keep the momentum working. I want to keep the momentum going, and I just want to keep working. I think,
Yeah.
Emilio agrees. That's kind of the dream for all of us,
Mhm.
especially as I don't have another. I'm not an editor, for example, so I just have this to go, and you always have to generate your own projects when you're a writer, director, which is it's exhausting. So it's nice when
Yeah.
something comes from abroad. So that's the next step.
Uh-huh. Part of why your film was so successful was because it makes you feel so good after watching it. It makes you feel a certain kind of contentment, as the characters go on and they start to fulfill the destiny that they once imagined for themselves. Emilios, do you think that you're on a similar trajectory as the characters, fulfilling the destiny that you once imagined for yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I might be a little bit late to the, I jumped on the trajectory bandwagon a little bit too late, I would say.
Well, I don't know
But I
about
think,
that. There's no right or
yeah,
wrong.
of course. But as you get older, you're kind of thinking, okay, I don't know how many opportunities I will have until I reach where I want to be. So yeah, I think I'm definitely on the right track. So yeah, looking forward to see what the future is gonna you know
But
bring.
you can work elsewhere in Europe, right? Because Cyprus is part of the EU, and yeah, so that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, but
But you don't want to leave. You have your family and everything like that, and that makes it trickier.
yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I would move, but I would move to I don't know if it's possible to get an editor from abroad and bring him somewhere else for a couple of months. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's
It's tricky.
doable,
It can be tricky,
to
yeah,
be
but
honest. So yeah,
you
But
know
Emilio's
what?
yeah,
also preparing his next feature as well. So
Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, tell us about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, you're gonna make me pitch.
Pitch to us.
Well, maybe there's an investor somewhere listening.
Could be.
No, basically, it's kind of a more personal project, which kind of stems from my adolescent years, uh, where I want to portray this. I'm working with the theme of masculinity and how um, back when I was just finished school, in Cyprus at 17, we have to. It's obligatory to join the army.
Mhm.
So for me at 17, I was just a kid, and I was kind of forced into becoming a man like really soon. So
Mm.
it's like a coming of age um, rite of passage kind of thing for last night between three friends before they go in join the army basically,
That sounds
and how
great.
they yeah they kind of navigate through the notions of love, friendship, and masculinity. Yeah,
That's that sounds great. So do you have the
yeah.
money and everything like that? Is that
We'll see. I mean, we should hear about the result. I mean, we've applied,
uh-huh.
obviously,
Oh, wow.
for development and production. So we should be hearing anytime soon, I hope.
And then
Yeah, so we'll
who will
see.
edit your movie? Stelana?
I don't want,
no.
please, I need someone to edit it, to be honest, because I don't want to edit again, because I've edited my debut, because
Uh-huh.
there was no funding available to
Right. So
bring
is yours.
another editor. Because I mean, it's a lonely process. I mean, it's lonely writing something. It's lonely
Yeah.
directing something because everything is here, and then it's even more lonely to edit the whole thing
Right.
because
Right.
you're in constant dialogue with yourself. So that's not good. So I do really hope I can bring another editor on board.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And Stelana, what about you? What's your next project about?
Well, I was very lucky after we premiered Find Me Falling, I got a green light on my passion project, which was very different. I don't know if that was a smart thing to do or not, but it's a film called Apart from Her. And it's a romantic drama set in the 70s between Cyprus and South Africa, and it's based on my parents' stories as refugees, the people who basically left Cyprus during the war and went to South Africa, which was interesting to me because they left one divided place for another because South Africa was in the middle of apartheid at that time. And the way that many women got their visas was through arranged marriages. So literally arriving at the airport, and there was a stranger there with a photo in their hand, and they would meet him, go to the courthouse, get married, and start their lives as immigrants in a foreign country. So that's kind of the starting point of this film. And it's done, and Emilio was my editor again, and it was a very different film, but it's something I really love. I'm really happy with it, and we finished it late last year, so we're out to festivals and sales and trying to get it out there. And we have this really lovely young cast who've been like Lim Lubani, who was in the Oscar-nominated film Omar, and Luca Pasqualino, who's quite big in the UK, but no major stars. So it's a tougher sell. It just seems like nowadays, and I'm sure Kevin could say, like the model is you either need like a major star or a major festival launch to get your film out there. So we're in the trenches with that at the moment, and it's this the phase of torture after you finish a film.
It sounds
Um,
great. And so, but
Thank
you're just getting going on festivals and stuff, right? So
Yeah, we've just started now. We're just trying to get it out there. Yeah, and then obviously, and then there's a rom-com again. I think I'm going to alternate. So, and then there's a nice kind of rom-com following after that. But yeah, but I'm really hopeful to get this to find it a good home, and it's a bit more of a challenge this time, with the subject matter, and it's a bit controversial for Cyprus. It's we've had a little bit of pushback on it because it
political.
shows there's some scenes which we don't normally show in our films here. It's a very balanced view in my opinion, but that's really the case with historic films. So we'll see where it lands.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
Nice.
that
Yeah.
sounds good.
What's next for you?
I don't know. Mostly just doing some consulting work and sometimes helping out on a film and waiting to see what Alexander does next. And
Uh,
after his film in Denmark, and then yeah.
in terms of your work with Netflix, do you work on television as well, or uh, I mean,
Rarely, but sometimes.
uh-huh.
But not me so much. But there's another editor that also holds the same position as I do, and she's been on a couple of series shows, but mostly we work for movies, and I think they might have people that do what we do in series also.
Do you guys have anything else to add? I don't think I have any more questions. Uh,
Uh, no, but Emilios, you should join the ACE International Committee and
yeah,
become an international member. It'd be fun.
Is that possible?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We have a section for international editors because we wanted to reach out to more international editors and
Wow.
bring them in. And Martinos, you is that how you came in, or did you?
no, I came in through the American market.
Okay, gotcha.
So yeah, so I'm an active member, but yeah, we do have the international partner program, which is something that would apply to you, Emilios, I think.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just it would keep you in the loop of what's going on with ACE, and
Yeah.
that's why it started to just
Yeah.
for us to reach out.
That'd be
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
can
I'm
email
I'm I'm,
you.
I'm
I'll
gonna look
email
it up.
you our website and I'll point you at where you
Yeah.
can look into it.
Yes,
Nice.
please. Thank you.
Also, just a shout out because we did have one more editor, and we have to mention Catherine Himoff, who did a polish for us before we locked our edit, like came in and just also I think it was also just kind of for a bit of an American sensibility. Our producers were wanted to just see before we did our test screening. So yeah, and I'm sure she must be a member as well.
I
So
think she is.
she
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
yeah, Catherine was also just a lovely, just an extra voice, an extra set of fresh eyes that came onto the film as we were nearing lock.
Thank you all so much for joining me for this lovely talk. It was amazing to hear your stories and connect with you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you
hope,
Yeah.
so
Thank
much.
you.
yeah, and
This was amazing. Yeah.
best of luck with all your endeavors.
Ditto.
Thank you,
You too.
Martinos.
You
Thank you
too.
so much.
You too.
Okay.
All the
Okay,
best.
take care.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Cheers, guys. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Bye bye.
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 Thank you.